So today's 15th August 2025, and I just started a cut. I'm not sure how long this cut will last. Uh, Probably I plan to lose at least 5 kgs minimum. I might do more if I'm not happy with my physique or just how I generally feel. So, a couple of things why I wanted to make this log style video for a change is to kind of track my progress and share my thoughts at the start of a cut, draw some general conclusions so that I can teach people, guide them as to how to approach the entire problem. So I generally try to give advice that's relatively niche, something you can stack on top of the existing base of knowledge that's already available. And I try to make it as experiential as possible, so as to keep things simple, make things a lot more relatable. So one thing I noticed, that this time the principle I had successfully used the last time did not work for me. So here's how it generally goes. I kind of bulk or just eat, just normally gain muscle, body weight, whatever, for a period of around 1 to 1.5 years, and after which I go for a cut that lasts for at least for 6 months, if not more. And the reason I do it is because I am not a physique primary athlete, just or someone who's concerned with the way I look. uh, of course, in my younger years, I'd be a lot more particular with regards to not exceed my caloric intake by too much. It would actually be interfering with my own mental health and general well-being. I mean, your physique, your gym lifestyle is supposed to ultimately help you feel good about yourself, and of course there are trade-offs, but but yeah. So I don't want to go to a tangent. So coming back to the main point that I was trying to make is that 2 years ago in 2023, I started the cut around November, and I'd end it somewhere around mid 2024. So my strategy was to work out every day, just making sure that the workouts are very short and precise. So my workouts would be short, to the point, last around 30 minutes, of course, excluding warm up and stretching. But I'd noticed that my energy levels would improve over time because of this increased work capacity, and constantly not running into sort of a brick wall um, when it came to recovery. Of course, there were certain days that I felt that I could use a rest day, but one of the things that I noticed is that if you just go to the gym and do a bit of stretch, just warm your body up, uh, it actually does better for your recovery than complete rest at home. This is kind of counterintuitive, but if you look up the concept of active recovery, uh, it is quite common, and athletes have been using this principle for quite some time now. But yeah, so uh, initially, I remember that I had failed a cut for like a month or two, and by failure I mean I had been trying to uh, drop body fat, but I was constantly failing because I was sticking to my general workout splits, right? So just 3 to 4 days a week, and then uh, graduating to working out every single day. Now, coming to the diet part of the discussion, I wasn't actually counting calories. The part where I said that I failed for a few months when it came to cutting properly, I was actually counting calories. I was tracking it successfully, but for some reason, my weight wasn't budging. I was feeling exhausted all the time. So my energy levels were low. was definitely my hormones had to be low. I did not, of course, do a blood test during that time. Mm, and so I was doing intermittent fasting. So I'd start with 12 hours first, and then I'd gradually increase the fasting window until it got to around 8 hours of eating window. So that makes it around 16 hours, right? Uh, and then I'd stay in that 8 hour eating window for like a month, and after which I'd reduce it further. So is it a strategy I recommend everyone do? Uh, Not really, because it comes with lots of caveats, and one of the almost lethal caveat is if you are someone who's diabetic, that will actually, that has the potential to completely destroy your life. So coming from a family of diabetics, I generally don't recommend people jump directly into a very aggressive intermittent fasting approach. Uh, of course, letting your body acclimate and slowly expanding the window uh, will work way better than just this aggressive approach. And then sometimes, oh, if you are an athlete, if you are someone who is carrying decent amount of muscle mass or does lots of strength training, then a shorter window might work for you. The thing here is that the concept of fasting has very different definitions uh, in different pockets of the internet. For some people, fasting is has to be 16 hours. So the fasting, this fasting snobbery is something that I don't really endorse. So after 16 hours, your body goes through cellular autophagy, which is basically clearing of waste and building new tissue. Uh, and anything shorter than that is considered not fasting by um, a certain group of individuals. But and fasting can range from either 8 hours uh, to anything above that. Uh, if the concern is lowering of blood sugar, uh, making sure that your kind of fasting insulin levels return to the baseline. So it can be a lot shorter for metabolically active people, uh, people who maybe, let's say, you just completed your workout, you do your workouts in the evening, like I'm doing right now. You're naturally more insulin sensitive. So post dinner, it will take your insulin levels to return to normal a lot sooner than if you did not work out. And so there are lots of different caveats to this. But yeah, so because I slowly graduated, uh, slowly expanded my fasting window and slowly decreased my eating window, whichever way you want to look at it. My energy levels were constant, and I'd start burning fat, and so my energy would be through the roof all the time. Around workouts, I would really go crazy with the carb intake. So that is one thing that I forgot to mention. It is one of perhaps very important. So uh, I had this very, I would say, controversial um, habit of consuming lots of sugar before workout. Now, keep in mind, I was 20 hours, 16 to 20 hours into the fast from previous day noon. So around 3 to 4 p.m., I would have my dinner basically, and then it's nothing for the rest of the day. Uh, yeah, I don't even remember how I'd deal with the hunger levels. But yeah, so I remember doing that, and then when I'd wake up, my energy levels would be slightly low, right, because of low blood sugar. But one important thing is that I was fat adapted. So one important thing is that I was fat adapted. Now, fat adaptation is something that's rarely spoken about when it comes to fat loss, but we make it purely about calories in and calories out. It's just that the calories in, calories out theory, the caloric balance theory, whichever uh, name you want to use, is just the starting point. It's the absolute least, I would say, you can say, least, I would say, intelligent idea that you can convey to people. Um, yeah, for people who are just starting out, for beginners, they need to understand this concept. But there's a certain class of people who are extremely insulin resistant, for whom the body doesn't really respond properly to caloric deficit, basically. So please understand that whenever you drop calories, so the body has a tendency to maintain its own weight. So it's called homeostasis, right? So if you drop calories, your body isn't going to just release all the fat instantly, because in case of an emergency, if you do it too abruptly, your body might end up destroying itself in some sense. So these are these things. The principle of homeostasis is basically kind of an insurance for your body. It's a mechanism to protect itself from any sudden absence of calories, basically. So if the body is able to kind of get a sense that it is being deprived of calories, so initially it'll work, you will start losing weight, but after a while your overall metabolism will slow down, so your body will kind of make sure to consume less calories and spend uh, calories, right? And when that happens, you're basically the baseline keeps shifting downwards, and you will need to cut more and more calories. So the best strategy is to not alert your body system, uh, and let all of these kind of alarm mechanisms to start firing, basically. And so there are a couple of ways I do. So I do intermittent fasting on one day, and then I eat a lot on the next day, right? So there's this initial, I would say, drop in caloric intake, and it would come from my body's source, basically body fat. And then maybe I'll do it for a few days, and then I'll take a break. So in those breaks, my body would come back to normal. It wouldn't really hamper my performance. My muscle mass would stay intact, right? I wouldn't, my strength numbers were still the same at the end of the cut. And at a daily level, so this happens at a level of a week, or a period of 4 days, right? Now at the level of a day, so in 24 hours, I do the same thing. So around the workout, I eat a lot of carbohydrates and a reason and a little bit of protein, but the protein would just be uh, to hit some certain daily target protein goals, because just consuming the entire quota of protein in one sitting is not something that I like doing. It it, it causes lots of bloating and indigestion for me. And so yeah, so I'd consume a little bit of protein, maybe 30-40 grams. That isn't a lot for me. And then I'd consume 3 to 4 times carbs, so 100 to 120 grams of carbs uh, before the workout session. And so I was extremely insulin sensitive from all the uh, for 16 to 20 hours of fasting, right? And then I'd also uh, need energy for the workout that would follow the meal. And so this the meal would actually be, uh, I would say, reasonably precise uh, in the context of the my calorie expenditure. And so after consuming the breakfast or the first meal of the day, I'd work out. And then again, after that, I'd have something similar. This time, the protein would be slightly more. So if it's 30 grams last time, and the first meal, then consume around, let's say, 10 grams more. So it's not that important. It's mostly just to make sure that the daily protein intake is being hit, and take advantage of the, I would say, the post workout insulin sensitivity, right? So basically, the thing is that if you consume lots of carbs along with the protein, it gets absorbed efficiently. Lots of different YouTubers and scientists who approve of that. So if you've heard of Dr. Jim Stopani, uh, so he recommends consuming something like dextrose, which is even more, uh, I would say, simple. So even higher glycogen index than sugar itself, so as to spike your insulin. So ultimately, uh, I'm having primarily carbs along with a reasonable amount of protein, right? So basically, my workout is sandwiched between two carb heavy meals, and then after that, I would consume most of the fat along with the remaining protein. So it would pretty much be 3 meals a day, And so, yeah, biasing your carb intake around your workout is really a game changer, as it allows the body to store the carb as glycogen and use it in an efficient manner for recovery rather than just feeling groggy and uh, brain fogged. And so the carbs get a very bad rap in fitness circles. But if performance is your concern, if you like training with reasonably heavy weights or just going very intense, then carbs are actually your friend. If timed right, if you know how to approach nutrition, how to split different macros and based on certain times of the day and relative to your workouts, right? And so biasing your carbs all the while not reducing the amount of carbs. So that is one important thing. Mm, I know people like recommending uh, going too low on the carbs, but it's actually an investment. So carbs are kind of it's not that simple basically. So carbs help you gain weight, but it also can aid in weight loss by helping the muscles recover. So if you really look at the entire span of the day, so there is this kind of a wave like situation. So we have these two extremes. We have a period of intense activity and then lots of food intake. So there's food intake first, as in the first meal. Then we have a period of intense activity, which kind of expends all the calories, and then also you require calories for recovery. So there's, I'm assuming you'll have some calories left from the first meal, and then on top of that, you're having your post-workout meal. So there's all of the calories are being kind of, I would say, localized, and they're kind of balancing each other off. The timing of your meals are as important as the actual macro distribution. So clearly, my own personal experience bears testimony to the limitations of your of IIFYM approach, right? If I just were to consume these calories at random times, um, so like all the while keeping the macros the same. So clearly it wasn't working for me. Um, and there are lots of people who recommend fasted workouts. And I've personally, when I was younger, I'd have decent results with it. But as I grew older, it kind of mm, made me feel a lot less, I would say, energized in the gym. And then on top of that, if I stack it on top of fasting, right? So if I end my fasting with a workout, so that's like a lot of fasting and a lot of I would say negative caloric balance for the body. um, and so even if I consume enough calories to counter all of that deficit for the entire day, uh, my energy levels wouldn't quite go back to the baseline basically. So there's no way for your body to know whether or not it'll get food in the future, and so it can't really make adjustments. So your body can't really expend calories in anticipation of caloric intake in the future. And because if the equation keeps changing, it'll wreak havoc on your system. um, and so there's definitely some limitations of intermittent fasting, uh, especially at the extreme levels that we don't speak enough about. Uh, and I think the entire discussion gets lost in the science and the theory of what is happening inside your body at the physiological level, um, all the while ignoring all the experiential data. So we are lost in what should happen rather than what is actually happening. And so, yes, intermittent fasting definitely has its trade offs, especially if performance is also our concern along with losing body weight, right? Because at the end of the day, I personally believe that you're holding your performance, keeping your performance intact during the fat loss phase will actually pay dividends in the future, especially towards the end. And so if you jump uh, into the fat loss bandwagon uh, with an extreme approach, you might actually end up losing some muscle at the start, which might seem benign, but you know that muscle is an expensive resource, as it helps burn fat, and not just because it burns fat and during the rest. That's definitely a factor, but it's negligible. Your muscle is a consequence of increased work capacity and being able to perform in the gym. Right. So I'll give a very simple example. Let's say you've built up your VO2 max uh, s- significantly, all the while doing, let's say, the cross trainer. And let's just say you build some cross trainer specific muscle, even though that doesn't exist, right? And so that muscle manifests itself as just a few 1/10 of a pound, or maybe uh, basically a really small amount of muscle in orders of grams, right? But if we really look at it in its face value, purely by the weight of that muscle, uh, it might not be burning as many calories in rest, but that muscle is actually responsible uh, for burning the extra calories in the gym. So that muscle is actually making you capable to exert the force to complete the entire workout. Basically, that muscle results in burning of lots of calories. So you can't really look at the muscle superficially. And then there's other aspects such as your strength, um, your VO2 max, which can't really be measured physically, but these are traits that um, ultimately pays dividends. These are investments, and uh, one must aim to preserve these resources as much as possible uh, to successfully execute a cut. Uh, if the primary goal is to preserve as much muscle as possible, all the while losing fat, because that is generally our aim, right? So there isn't any look forward buffer or anything like that in the context of caloric intake. So yeah, I uh, consuming carbs prior to workouts have actually been a net positive in my opinion. Uh, Now, of course, you can experiment with fasted workouts. Fasted cardio definitely works better, but if it involves intense strength training and things like that, um, experience-wise, I'd say you're better off consuming a bit of carbs or uh, something that keeps you going. So, one more thing, it's that if you're ending a fast and you're eating a moderate amount of food before working out, that might not actually be good for you. Uh, you either want to work out completely fasted, or make sure that there's enough fuel available um, to support the entire workout, and also um, to kind of make sure that your overall physiological functions are being supported. So, what I really mean is that you don't want your body to be in a state of starvation, basically, right? So, there's a fine line between fasting and kind of, I would say, starving, even though starving sounds like a really long fast, uh, with lots of nutritional deficiencies and whatnot. But here's the thing, is that fasting is also about the hormones, like the release of growth hormones, uh, low levels of insulin. So these are two components that are that corely define what fasting is. So if I just uh, go into a negative caloric balance, all the while not having these hormones in my system, it actually doesn't qualify as fasting. Uh, even the basic advantages aren't there, right? So you will end up kind of losing some muscle if you keep doing this over time, or just feeling crap at the end of the day. So one interesting thing that actually motivated me to adopt this workout every day kind of a lifestyle back in 2023 was, quite ironically, me being I was kind of tired of working out. I kind of had enough. It was kind of a mental burnout. And so I just go in, do a couple of exercises and then come back. Of course, since I generally follow a push pull leg kind of a split, or something that is relatively high frequency, not just push pull leg, where I hit every muscle group twice a week, I'd noticed that the little volume I do for each of the muscle group wasn't really resulting in my muscles regressing, which was something that I was expecting. Because I figured that if I deload for a few weeks, or maybe just let it go for at least a week or two, I'd come back stronger. But I actually got stronger as I took that break. And eventually, find myself running the previous push pull leg split effortlessly without having to rest. So, my theory is that my work capacity had ramped up over time. And so, this is something that I preach, but sometimes I get sloppy when it comes to executing it myself, and that is taking a step back, uh, starting with lower than your what you estimate your work capacity to be. And so if, let's say, you are accustomed to doing 6 exercises, 3 sets, maybe 20 sets of any single muscle in any session, uh, you can always pull back a little bit. After 1 week, you'll find yourself very naturally acclimated to your old volume, and even being able to push past that initial limit. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that leaving a little bit of room will actually allow your body to catch up. So you have to take a step back and look at the overall picture, rather than uh, being driven by compulsion, or having this very localized um, thought process of wanting to do a lot in just one session. Another thing that I do was, even in the high frequency uh, split where I'd hit same muscle group twice, my workouts would still be slightly different. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to, let's say, create your push split. So push day one and push day two, right? Some people do a focus on the shoulder on one day, then do a bit of chest, right? And then on day two, they do the reverse, where they focus on the chest and then do a little bit of shoulder. Uh, and then there's other approaches as well. You can make one session majorly focusing on the primary muscle groups, as in the chest and shoulder, doing lots of presses, and then on the second day you can make it tricep dominant. Another thing that works is doing one press focus and one fly focus. I mean, of course, there's going to be debate as to which one is the best, and generally speaking, the shoulder focused and focusing on shoulder one and focusing on chest one day uh, is one of the most commonly used split, and there's a reason for that. But let's say you are actually trying not to kill your triceps, or you have some joint issue. So in that context, the best split automatically becomes the one where you are able to make your joints recover better, so naturally through elimination. So context is extremely important. Personally, what I did was actually switch things up, uh, as in, I do chest focus once and then shoulder focus once. But then the following week, I'd switch up the workout, the order in which I'd work out. So I'd start with chest flies and then do press the second, even though the previous week it would be the other way around. Because if you really think about it, what's the most common way to approach this you would probably start with the press, right? Because you are fresh, relatively fresh, you're able to um, exert the most amount of force in the first exercise, uh, and then follow it up with fly movement, basically, right? But my my intuition was working quite well during that time, and so I'd actually start with flies on some days, and when I'd move to doing the press, I'd actually feel a little more of my upper chest, because I'd use the kind of semi-inclined bench to do shoulders, right? I That is the general way it's done. Although some people like sitting absolutely upright, like 90 degrees to hit their shoulder, but I think that it provides a much more stable base. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that there is no one single way of executing an exercise, and sometimes your muscles can use the extra novelty, but keep in mind that the novelty your will experience through switching the order is going to be very slight. But I figured that since I was on a cut and I was actually doing low volume, the total volume was still low, remember. I figured my muscles could use a little bit of extra novelty, because I wasn't going crazy with the volume, right? In a traditional push pull leg session, you hit the same muscle group after 2 to 3 days, right? But just in case you run into a brick wall of some sort, where let's say you still have some kind of soreness in your joint, keep in mind that isn't a good sign ever. But just in case it happens, if you were really going crazy on the press or doing skull crushers with incorrect form, where it's all elbows and very little triceps, uh, it can happen. But the most common muscle group is of course legs. If you After a heavy leg day, there if you gradually go up in weights, if you get stronger in the gym, each session it requires more to recover, and sometimes uh, it needs more time to recover, right? It takes more time to recover. And so in order to create that space between one ppl tuple, let's say, I'd throw in a fourth day. So my routine wouldn't be limited to 7 days. So that artificial constraint we give ourselves, as limiting to 7 days a week, is actually has to do with our lifestyle. Just it's a cultural thing, because we have certain things to do on Sundays. Perhaps we have work on the weekdays. There are a number of reasons why we do that, but it's not because your muscles need exact 7 days. So the rule of seven is actually kind of artificial, and it's a construct, basically, right? So you can very easily switch around with the frequency. You can hit single muscle group once every 5 days, right? You can modify that bro split. It might actually work better for you if you're someone who likes absolutely demolishing a single muscle group. And for enhanced lifters, it's 7 days a week. So the 7 day, once every 7 day got popularized. But for natural athletes who might need a little bit more frequency, you can just slightly modify that. So make it five instead of once every 7 days. So you don't have to uh, be stuck in either once every 7 days or twice every 7 days. Because sometimes, like, if you are not working, if you're doing heavy compound movements that involve multiple muscle groups, sometimes you go through some kind of systemic fatigue. You might need a lot more. So I throw in an extra fourth day to kind of create a space between two splits. And then I'll do some core work. Maybe I'll pull out, let's say, a tricep work from one session and then put it here, and so that I can continue with it. Of course, if it starts with push, then you'll have to do for biceps. So there are n number of ways we can go about it. You can uh, always pull out any one single aspect of uh, among there are n number of ways you can do it. So the general idea is to pull out any one exercise or one aspect, maybe a weakness or just something that's not typically addressed in a push pull leg split, and throw it in the fourth day. The only concern that you should have is to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the start of the tuple. So if it starts with a push day, you ideally don't want to do any push based movements on the previous day. So for example, you don't want to hammer your triceps the day before you start another push pull leg split. Of course you can do that if it starts with a pull and then ends with a leg. You can strategically switch up a tuple. So let's say you end up hitting your tricep after a push pull leg tuple on the fourth day, and then on the next day you must do your back. And so that will help you recover better. It will kind of switch up the frequency. So some days you will work your back, some weeks you will work your back more frequently than others. So it'll create a sort of a, I would say, controlled randomness that might help you, because I have personally experienced growth, and it has helped me switch things up. So yeah, it's something that I wouldn't personally advise against, because these kinds of experiments are always these are harmless experiments basically, right? So if it works for you, it works for you. So you don't want to um, do a workout that interferes with the following day's workout. It's common sense. Uh, so yeah, the fourth day can be a single muscle group. Let's say it's only triceps, and then you do a bit of cardio, maybe a bit of core. Maybe you do your only biceps, or make it a complete arm workout, provided you don't have either push or pull the following day. So you can do it typically before classic leg day that doesn't really involve any form of pulling. And I really mean something like a deadlift, or maybe some row kind of hybrid exercise that people do that kind of involves your arms and pulling musculature, right? So if it's a classic leg day where you are doing squats and then some hack squats, maybe some leg press, some leg extension, hammer, leg curls, calf raises, and whatnot. So that pairs well. One more caveat that I want to clear. So one more aspect I want to discuss is that I was running a very classic push pull leg kind of split, where uh, I so basically I wasn't doing any kind of deadlifts, just a bit of RDL, back extensions, which can very easily be pushed into either a back or leg day. I mean, so is the case with deadlifts, except with deadlifts it costs you a lot more recovery. So the main point is that I wasn't doing any um squats or deadlifts because I had an injury, back injury. So it kind of helped me eliminate these exercises and not get caught up in all the implications of losing my strength, because it just took me basically a split second to lose all my strength when I uh, injured my back. That's a different story. But if you are someone who's primarily concerned with physique, um, and you want to go forward with this approach, you might need to scale down the compounds very slightly. I wouldn't recommend that you completely eliminate any compound movement just because it supports your split better. But this time around, like right now, it has been just a few days since I started this cut. Uh, I now have another concern, that is to maintain my strength. So for like a month or so, I've been trying to lose weight using the old routine, but it isn't working for me. I'm waking up with kind of a headache, a bit of a low blood sugar, and then my entire day is kind of getting ruined. I'm going through this phase with lots of brain fog, and so I decided to switch it to the evening, and now I'm absolutely fine. That I can see just the scale moving basically a little bit, although at this point it might just be water weight. So just because something has worked for you in the past doesn't mean it'll work for you in the future. So clearly, in my experience, that has happened quite a few times. You see, whether or not a workout routine is going to work for you, it depends upon your work capacity, your nutrition, your hormones, and a bunch of other things, including environmental and lifestyle factors. And your current levels of fitness are also something that we tend to ignore when questioning the efficacy of a program. So our training history, our immediate, the last program that we ran also will determine our current fitness levels. And so if we try to jump into an advanced program after being detrained, you might actually feel slower and a lot, I would say, exhausted from all the um, stress and your body's inability to recover from the sudden uh, workload. And so I'd like to end this video. I just had a bunch of thoughts that I wanted to share, make this video kind of educational. If you watched till the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate the patience. Of course, this was a mixed bag of info. So if you stuck around, it means that you like the style, the spirit behind the information I've tried to share. So I'm at the start of another cut after 2 years, and hopefully I'll be able to get to the best shape of my life yet, considering I've put on a decent amount of mass from the previous cycle. Uh, and I'll share with you the results in the following, sorry, in the following weeks or months. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my videos. I'm also a one-on-one coach. I provide online services. If you're interested, the details will be provided in the description. Uh, Make sure to contact me, and also get the details in the channel's description. See you soon.